Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I'm joined by my co-host, Christy. Christy, how are you today?
I am well, Lake. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. We have a fun little mini-sode for you. We're bringing on some first-hand experience of the vibe, which is a section of the ship that we hardly ever get to talk about. Right,
because it's shocking that these teenagers don't want to come on and talk about the teen club. It's not shocking.
Yeah, they're not itching to type us up and fill out the form and say, I've been to the vibe.
And share their experiences. Nope.
But we do have a frequent listener to join us, two frequent listeners and frequent guests of the show. So with that, we would like to welcome back Bryan and Kinnsy to the show. Bryan, Kinnsy, how are you today?
I'm doing well.
Doing well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and doing this episode. Kinnsy, you're really going to be the star of the show today. You are going to be giving us all the hot takes and tips from the vibe. Would you just give us a little bit of your experience in those spaces and what they're like?
Yes. So my first cruise was in January of 2020. I was 13 or so, 13, 12, probably 12. And that was my first experience in Edge. And I had the most wonderful experience in Edge that year, that cruise. And then for the next few cruises after that, I just, with all the COVID restrictions, and I was just having a hard time making these connections again. But when we went to Europe this last summer, I had the most incredible experience in Vibe. And I made some wonderful friends from all over the world. And yeah, that's kind of the Vibe and Edge it's my history.
So Edge, I always like to tell listeners or even clients, it's like you're on the edge of being a teenager. So that's how you remember which club goes to what. And then once you're a teenager, the teen club is a vibe. So that's the way I can sort of differentiate between the two clubs. I was so confused by their names, probably until my child was old enough to go or was starting to go into the Edge. But so the Edge is for the tweens, and then the vibe is for 14 to 17. So what kind of activities did you do?
It was always a good idea, at least for me, to always go to the icebreakers and the first day, just kind of hang out and let kind of the activities happen so you can meet people. But one activity that has always been a favorite is Heroes and Villains, which is when you first register at Vibe. It's a lot different than registering for the kids club. You don't get a fancy wristband or anything. You just get your card and they put a special sticker on it, and then they'll write whether you're a hero or a villain. And then every night, it's typically around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, unless it's a weird C-day schedule. Sometimes they'll do it earlier. But they do Heroes and Villains, which is essentially a game show almost, where you're on the two different teams, Heroes and Villains, which is decided at the beginning of the cruise. And you just do different kind of challenges. One of my favorites from this summer was, I don't remember what they called it. It was really just a trivia kind of game. And it was whoever could run and grab the pen that was on the table in the middle of the room the fastest could answer the question. And one of the ways I met one of my very close friends from that cruise was one of the questions or challenges, I guess, was sing as many Disney song lyrics as you can, back and forth, and you can't repeat the same lyric, and you can't repeat the same lyric as another person, and you can't hesitate for more than 3 or 4 seconds or something like that. And so me and this other girl got up there and we were just singing lyrics back and forth for 10 minutes. Everyone's this is going to go on forever and forever. And then finally I accidentally repeated a lyric, and that's how I met one of my really close friends. Was we were singing back and forth playing that game. And so Heroes and Villains is always a good way to meet people in very friendly, fun competition. And it gets heated. It's a huge everyone wants to win and everyone is very dedicated to winning, and it's very fun.
Now, my son has come back from the Edge with different prizes. Sometimes there'll be a scavenger hunt and maybe a prize. Do they do stuff like that in the Vibe?
Yes. So I've never actually won Heroes and Villains. So at the end of the cruise, the last competition, every competition, whoever wins gets a point, and then whoever has the most points at the end wins. I've never actually won or been there when they've given out the prizes or whatever to who won, but I do believe you get a prize for that. But other prizes can be scavenger hunts and other games game shows and trivias. They do a lot of trivia, and if you if you win the trivia, they'll give you, or the scavenger hunt or whatever, really any of the activities that are a competition, they're very big about giving out the prizes. You'll get like the vibe glasses, or I've seen them give out hats and backpacks before. I don't win very often, so I don't get the prizes very often, but I've had friends that get the prizes a lot. So, and I think siblings that have gotten prizes, even in Edge and Vibe, both have. So yeah, I don't win, but I've seen others win, and they'll give you like hats and backpacks and glasses and other fun stuff that you can use really for the rest of the cruise. So it's useful, fun stuff, which is awesome.
So then your best advice for a teen is go that first night, and do the counselors try to have people interact with each other, or do you as the teenager have to interact with the other people on your own?
It really depends. If they see that you just are not wanting to interact with people, they're not going to, but they will give you activities and give you the resources to connect with people. And I'm a pretty socially anxious person underneath. I don't come off that way, but I am pretty anxious when it comes to meeting new people. And so that's why that's my number one advice is definitely just give it a chance. Go that first night. Not every cruise you're not going to meet like people every single cruise. Like you just have to give it a chance and see if like this cruise, because you don't want to miss that chance to meet amazing people. I mean, that's my biggest advice is just give it a chance, both for Edge and Vibe. I feel like this is pretty collective advice, and then see where it goes and just try your best to meet people. Sometimes you might not, and you can hang out with your family, but sometimes you might and have a really, really awesome experience.
I would say jumping in as the parent, that's the interesting thing I would say for the older kids is that it often depends on the dynamics on the cruise, but she's had some incredible experiences meeting people, which is why I'm always like, go and see who you connect. I think that's happened with all my kids. If they connect and make friends in that group, it can be a lot of fun. And it's amazing to me how often she'll randomly tell me, so-and-so from the cruise texted me like a year or two later.
Yes. That happened a lot. I had a lot of people reaching out to me from cruises from like 2 years ago. So that was really the connection. If you make good connections, the connections you make will last a very long time. And I was actually just texting one of my friends from Europe today about just life and catching up. So you will keep those connections for a long time.
Let's turn to the physical spaces a little bit and just talk about like what's actually available in the Vibe and kind of some of the differences between the ships that you've gotten to experience the Vibe in.
Yeah, so I've definitely, because of when cruises have lined up and when I've been old enough for Vibe and the cruises we've done at those times, enjoyed Vibe a lot more, like just not even just enjoyed, just been to Vibe a lot more on the Dream and Fantasy. I went to Vibe, the only cruise that we've done where I was old enough for Vibe was a few years ago, and it was a shorter cruise for the Wonder and Magic. Or just for the Wonder, because not even for the Magic. But so I don't remember much about the Wonder, but we can start with the Wonder. It's in the top like funnel, one of like the fake funnels, and it's like this, you go up this staircase and it seems like you don't know what, and it's just, you come up and it's this very inviting space. It's very colorful. There's pictures all over the wall, paintings and different quotes all over the wall, and they have the big TV in the center, and they have some smaller TVs in the back with like video games. And I feel like this is a typical thing on every ship, is they'll have a Guitar Hero machine. I feel like I've seen that on almost every single one. And then they'll have like a game station with like arts and crafts and other games. I feel like Vibe on the smaller ships, the Magic and Wonder, is a lot smaller. But like I said, with the way cruises have lined up, I didn't get to spend as much time in there. But the Dream and Fantasy Vibe, I've spent a lot of time in, and it is very big, and there's so much to do. They have ping pong tables, they have foosball tables, they have several TVs, and they have a little juice bar with like sodas and snacks occasionally. Sometimes they don't have them, but sometimes they do. And they have like this, the best way I could describe it is almost like a family room area where it's like all these couches at like a circle with bean bags, and that's surrounding like the main TV where most of the activities like heroes and villains happen. And then, yeah, they're just seating everywhere for even if you're just wanting to sit by yourself, they have seating there. And then what's really unique about the Dream and Fantasy is they have the teen sun deck, which is super, super fun. And I just, until Europe, I had never spent that much time on the sun deck just because of the way things had lined up. But in Europe, I got to spend a lot of time on the sun deck with a lot of my new friends, and we would just hang out in the pool out on the sun deck for hours and just hang out there. And they have like 3 pools. They have kind of a little bit of a splash area. I don't even know if that splash area might be too generous of a word, but a kind of little splashy area-ish. And then, yeah, it's just a nice spot to just relax. It's very colorful. It definitely fits in with like the cruise ship vibe of like just the entire ship. And that's also really fun to kind of just hang out with your friends away from all the little kids in the other pools, and you get the fun like teenager pool day vibe of it.
Just so you know, though, not to break your heart, but they took half of that space, half of the vibe, and now the pool deck is also shared with Edge. So there are Edge hours on the pool deck.
Oh, I did know that.
And then half of your vibe space has been taken over by Edge because they put funnel suites where the Edge used to be. So now the Edge has its own space, but it's part of the space that Vibe used to have.
That is heartbreaking. I did not know that. I knew that they shared the sun deck occasionally, but I did not know.
That was the latest dry dock for the Dream and the Fantasy. So just after we got off in Europe, they did that.
Okay, well, then everything I said might not be true now, but
It's still great. It's just that there's half the space.
still great.
Do a lot of people, like, outside of when activities are happening, like, actually go and hang out in the vibe? Or is it more like a communal meeting space to then venture out and do other things?
I would definitely say if there's not activities going on that people want to go to, it's a really good meeting spot. There were several times on this last cruise in Europe that we would just all meet up there and then go do whatever the heck we felt like doing, because it's just a great spot. Like if you're waiting, if someone's, say you have different dinner times with some of the people in your group, and so a few of you meet up at Vibe after your dinner and you're waiting for the other people, and there's still like, it's a great space to meet up where you're not going to be constantly moving around, but there's still stuff to do while you wait for everyone else in your group to get done with dinner or whatever it is. So then you can, so it's a really great meeting spot, but it's not like it's not a boring meeting spot. That's what I really like, is that if you're waiting a long time for some people to show up, there's always something to do.
What methods do you use when you find your tribe of people for a vibe for the cruise to like stay connected and make those plans to organize like what you're going to do, what days?
In the past, before this Europe cruise, I always just would use chat codes, and then on the last day of the cruise, exchange phone number, or like even earlier in the cruise, exchange phone numbers, because typically I was only ever meeting people from America. But this was really interesting because a lot of my friends were from England, and they all use WhatsApp over there. And I did not know this. This is a new, I guess, life hack for cruising, is WhatsApp works on the ship Wi-Fi, like the basic ship Wi-Fi, which I did not know. And so when we all started getting really close and hanging out all the time, we had chat codes, but then it got to a point we just created a WhatsApp group chat, and that ended up being, and it still is to this day, our method of communication from the cruise on to now, which was really, I did really enjoy using WhatsApp a lot more because than using just the typical Disney chat, because then you didn't have to worry that something might happen and you might forget to get someone's contact or whatever, and then you just have that.
It's worth calling out for the parents who don't know, when she's talking about chat codes, it's inside the Disney chat app. You can automatically chat with the people directly in your stateroom, but if you want to chat with other people on board using the Disney Cruise Line app, they have this concept of chat codes. As a parent, you can turn that on and off for the minors in your stateroom, but when they turn it on, they have to go give that chat code to somebody else if they want to be able to chat with them or with anybody outside of their stateroom. So Disney's done a good job of enabling you to have that communication through their app, but also letting the parents be in control. Of course, if your kids have a cell phone, then they've got other options available to them, but that's how the chat codes work.
Kinnsy, any other like thoughts from the vibe that we haven't covered already?
I don't think so. However, I will say, if you are a singer like me and you really want to get your karaoke on, but you don't want to go to the late night karaoke where it's always crowded and you'll only get to sing one song, going to Vibe Karaoke is a very good idea, because it won't be as crowded and not a lot of people will be as eager to participate while it's going on, and then you can that was one thing. Me and a lot of my friends on this last cruise were all singers, and we did the Vibe Karaoke and just nobody else was there. And so we just got to sing songs together over and over and over, and it was super fun.
Love it. Well, Kinnsy, Bryan, thank you all both so much for coming on. Kinnsy, thank you for sharing all of your little tips and tricks and experiences.
Yeah, it was fun to come on to talk about that.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Well, Christy, where can our listeners follow you?
You can find me all over the internet at Pack Your Pixie Dust. If you would like to work with me to book a vacation going forward, you could check out the show notes. Lake has made me a little Work with Christy link, and you can click on that. Lake, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram and YouTube at MouseGen, and you can follow the podcast at DCL Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. But that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Bryan and Kinnsy for coming on and sharing their experiences in the vibe. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our patrons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.